Hi guys, I'm Raffi Farelldica Ardyiero, and in this video I'll be talking about language change that happened in Indonesia. Right, let's go. So, talking about what is language change. Language change is the phenomenon by which permanent alterations are made in the features and the use of a language over time. All natural language change and language change affect all areas of language use. Types of language change include sound change, lexical change, semantic change, and syntactic change. Language change is a variation over time in a language features in which features of language or dialect are altered as a result of influence from another language or dialect, and analogical change in which the shape of grammatical behavior of a word is altered to more closely resemble that of another word. Okay, moving on into the next slide. Now, talking about why language can change. Language is constantly adapting and changing to reflect our changing life or experience and cultures. Language change enable us to accommodate new ideas, invention, and technologies. It's not just the word themselves which change, the way in which we use them can shift too. Language is always changing. We've seen that language changes across space and across social groups. Language also varies across time, generation by generation, pronunciation evolves, new words are borrowed or invented, the meaning of old words thrive, and morphology develops or decays. The rate of change varies, but whether the changes are faster or slower, they build up until the mother tongue become arbitrarily distant and different. And then that's why language can change. Okay, moving on into the next slide. So in this slide, I've provided you with the example of before and after AYD nowadays. And I think that the change of the writing itself, because of for adjust that the writing and the way to pronounce it, it's gonna be the same, and also to make it easier to understand. Uh, as you can see here, the first example, the young example, the old AYT use J rather than Y, but this word pronounced the same. It's pronounced young. The J it's pronounced with Y, young, and I think that that's why people change it into the Y of or they use Y rather than to use J because of to make it easier to understand. So that's why people change the old AYT to the newest AYT right now. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So in this slide, I've provided you with two examples of old Indonesian newspaper. As you can see, there are some I can say old Indonesian word that written such as pencuri, suara, jang, oepacara that pronounced as upacara, and many other Indonesian old word or old language. And those words nowadays have changed into more easy to read, and I think the purpose is to make it more easier for the reader to read the newspaper, and not just that, but those words change because of the pronouns have different word than the written word. I mean, like it is different when you pronounce it and write in it, and somehow it can make people confused when reading the newspaper. So that's why the language was changed, and I think it is some example of semantic and syntactic change in this old newspaper. And for today or nowadays newspaper, they don't use this kind of word. Okay. Now, for the example of language change nowadays, as you can see, I've provided you with these two examples. From these two examples, there are two types of Indonesian language change that happen today. The first one, people call it as bahasa gaul, and the second one, people call it as bahasa alay. And the differences was bahasa gaul, the use of the word are not removing the elements from the language itself, but only shorten it to make it sound cooler. And the bahasa alay itself, somehow people make it to be more like enthusiastic, but in a cute way, and it is sounds really annoying. For examples like the "cius miapa," but still does not remove the main function of the language itself. And I think this is, can be categorized as the semantic change and the syntactic change, because of the use of the word still the same, but just it is just a different word but have the same meaning with the the KBBI word. So that's why I can say it's categorized as semantic change and syntactic change. Okay, so that's all what I'm gonna share to you guys about the language change that happened in Indonesia. And once more, language is always changing. We've seen that language change across space and across social group, and language also varies across time, generation by generation. Pronunciation evolves, new words are born or invented, the meaning of an old word shifts, and morphology develops or decays, and type of language change includes sound change, lexical change, semantic change, and the syntactic change. So, um, I think that's all for this video, and thank you for your time. See you in the next video. Goodbye.